Attila, hi.
Hi.
Юрштет Кіманок.
Добрий вечір.
Да, добрий вечір. Доброго вечора. Ми з України. It means good evening. We are from Ukraine. This is a very, very famous Ukrainian now proverb, a phrase for communicating, for introducing. Attila, thanks for your time. I know that you gave today in this place, in this conference, 4 or 5 different interviews. In the evening you are tired, but for me it's a great honor to meet my colleague on geopolitical and any other international issues and to take this interview. But my first question is a Ukrainian to Hungarian. So how you remember this the 24th of February day? What is for you personally were this day, where you were, and what the consequences of this war for the people, for the society, for Hungary? How it's serious as a real personal maybe threat and the problem. How, as a Hungarian, how you see this war?
Yeah, I was in southern Hungary. Actually, I had a speech on Ukraine the day before, whether there will be a war or not, and I said that unfortunately the likelihood is getting bigger and bigger after the recognition of the Donbas separatist republics. But actually, I was in total disbelief. I woke up in the morning to phone calls from the state radio, and they said the invasion started, and I couldn't believe. And most of Hungarians were totally surprised that Russia did this. They were totally afraid of how can it impact Hungary and the region. So there was a day of disbelief, of not knowing what will happen in the future. So I remember it was a clear sunny day in Hungary, and I came, it's like 2.5 hours from that city in southern Hungary. And what I did was just listening to news all the time and in total disbelief that attacks on Kiev, not only in Donbas, because I believed if there is a war, Russia will attack the Donbas and Crimea and attack out of. So I thought it's going to be like Zaporizhia, Donbas, but not Kiev. And that attacking Kiev, to me, as I'm a security policy expert by training, to me it sounded madness with such a small Russian force. So it was a professional surprise, it was an emotional surprise, and for the wider Hungarian society, total disbelief.
What do you think about the concept of this war in the sense of relations between Ukraine and Hungary? Because before the war, Ukraine had different relations with European countries, with Iran, with Hungary. So with every country, Ukraine has their own history.
Yes.
And their own problems and positive tendencies. How you can estimate the relations now between our countries, between the people, between the government?
So I think we have to look at how the relations, how Hungarian people are thinking about Ukraine. What are the relations between the governments? And what are the issues to be solved? So first of all, it's very important to see in Ukraine, the majority of Hungarians support Ukraine. So what is the perception sometimes in Ukraine is not true. So there is more support among the people in Hungary than among several European Union countries, Bulgaria, Slovakia. So there is no pro-Russian historic feeling in Hungary, because we had a very bad relations with Russia historically. In the last 200 years, 1956, which everybody knows was only the last thing. So there were a lot of, let's say, in the 19th century, Russia was seen as the big threat to Hungary, actually. So it was, there is a book, a famous book written by Mr. Jókai, who was the biggest writer at the time, that it was the war between Austria-Hungary and Russia, and actually it happened in the First World War. But of course there is the issue of the minority of Hungarian history in Zakarpattia Oblast, but in general the people felt that we have to help the refugees. So there were a lot of people who went out to the railway stations, to the border. I've been to the border. We donated from here, from MCC.
They did it because they wanted to do it without any kind of...
It was not, but the government also changed a lot of rules. So you have to understand that Hungarian rules on migration and asylum were very tough, because we had the Syrian, Afghan 500,000
Yeah,
in that,
yeah.
and it was changed. For Ukrainians now free to travel in Hungary. They are very easy to work in Hungary, very easy to get asylum in Hungary. So all these asylum policies were changed basically in a few days in Hungary. So I know what is the perception. I just been to Ukraine like a few weeks ago, but the reality is that Hungary is very welcoming to Ukrainian refugees, and people don't know Ukraine. I have to admit, average Hungarians never crossed the border, or if they crossed, they didn't went further than Zakarpattia Oblast. So they know nothing about Kiev. They know nothing about Odessa. They are learning slowly about Ukraine. And it also, the lack of knowledge about Ukraine and the Ukrainians give a room to some Russian propaganda in the country. But again, it's a much better situation in general, but also from the government. It's much more aid is given than it's known. In terms of humanitarian aid, in terms of giving hospital beds to Ukrainian soldiers, so healing to Ukrainian soldiers who were wounded in battle. They can come to Hungary to get healed. We are giving training to Ukrainian army people who are doctors and nurses for the military.
It's fact, yeah.
So we also offer demining help. So Hungary is not giving weapons to Ukraine, but there is many other things. And actually we are providing the money to the European fund, which gives weapons to Ukraine. So my taxpayer money goes to this fund, and everybody who you see around contribute. And there was not a big debate about this. So the society said, okay, we are not giving directly, but through the European fund, yes.
It's a very, very important to hear what you say, because I during my walking and traveling in Hungary, I saw a lot of confirmation what you said, especially about the humanitarian activity of Hungarian organizations, civil society, religion organization,
Yes.
Maltese services. So everybody see it, you know. And my following question concerns the geopolitical situation, you know, because first of all, you are specialist in this field. It's a very complicated thing, and I, the person who see what happened in my first 2014 region, Donbass, Pesky, where you were.
Yeah, I've been to Pesky.
Yeah, it's this region was the center of geopolitical. Now we see another consequence, another scale, and if you want to understand what happened, you have to understand the general map. After the Munich conference 2023, now I see that the tendency for the general peace in the world is not good. How seriously you estimate the probability of appearing of new hotspots? I don't know,
Yes.
in the planet, in the post-Soviet countries, in Europe.
Yes.
What's happening?
So we are very worried about, of course, Ukraine is the main worry for Hungarians, but we are very worried about Moldova. And we are also very worried about the situation in the Balkans. So these are very close to Hungary, and we see a potential. But of course, the biggest danger, the biggest possible geopolitical danger is a clash between China and the United States. And this would affect everything, including Ukraine. So what we see in Hungary, generally we are sometimes a devil's advocate within NATO and the European Union, but we say that we have to avoid a bigger conflict between, let's say, China and the US. It would be really bad for everyone. And we should be a bit more cautious on ideology, because democracy and Western democracy is the best system in the world. But if we believe that we can spread it around, and if we believe that the Taiwan issue is a make or break issue, then we can end up in a very bad situation with China. So there is a feeling of let's say, maybe fear is a exaggeration, but bad omens on the horizon for not only for what's happened in Ukraine, which is a terrible aggression by Russia, but there can be an even bigger conflict. So we have to be very cautious, and we have to be very. That's the Hungarian position, and also in the Balkans, a lot of problems were not solved. Kosovo conflict, Serbia and Kosovo is open. Bosnia is open. and there are other countries with internal fault lines, ethnic fault lines within. So Northern Macedonia, which is member of NATO, there is tension from time to time between the Albanian and the Macedonian people. Also, even within Montenegro, there are tensions. So I would say that Balkan is not that stable. So these are the worries, but of course the main worry.
So you see the other potential hotspots in Europe also.
Yep, absolutely.
Moldova, Balkan.
Balkan region. I hope that we can avoid any escalation, and I think a lot of people are working. But you know, it was just the plates on the car plates.
I understand. This is actually my last question, Attila. What next? I mean, not what country next, but what to do. What is the role and the future of Ukraine in the future? National, I don't know, international security policy, defense. So, what role of my country would be in the European or Eurasian, maybe continental system, or what options we have as we see or what can be in the nearest future, despite of this geopolitical situation? How important Ukraine and the other countries also will be in the future European system?
Ukraine is a very important country in the European system, but even on a global scale, an important country. And Hungary believes, and this is official, so I'm an analyst, but the government says in a fully sovereign Ukraine with territorial integrity. It's very important to understand that Hungary believes in the territorial integrity of Ukraine, including all the area taken since 2014. What we have a debate is language rights and education rights, not on the territorial integrity and on sovereignty. Ukraine in the future, I believe, can be a member of EU and NATO, and there is a support from Hungary for both, but especially EU. And I think for Ukraine, the economy will be the biggest challenge after the war. First, of course, the war must end, and I'm not very optimistic that it will end soon. But when it ends, economic challenge will be enormous for Ukraine, and it's the EU which is the most important. Of course, security is very important, but security can be arranged by other methods. I personally support NATO membership also for Ukraine. So what I'm saying about the future of Ukraine, that it's an important part of the European system, but we must find a way, and I think in a way, that's why it's better to postpone the final resolution of the conflict, because with Vladimir Putin and the current Russian system, it's very hard to agree. But in the future, there can be a change. So there's diplomacy when you say that you postpone the final agreement to the future. But whatever happens, Ukraine is a pivotal member of the European system. It's a geopolitical position is very important. Poland and Ukraine together are the two most important between the West and the East, and I think it's very much realized in Hungary.
And what actually will be with Europe? What is the future of European security and policy system? How you would see?
Yes, I think we have to realize that we are weak, and we have to work on rearming Europe. We have to create much more strengths within our countries. And of course, we have to work together with the United States of America. But we can only work together as equals if we are strong enough, because the American criticism is fully validated that we are not spending on the army. Our armies are weak. We don't have enough weapons. We don't have enough munitions. So we have to change the mindset of Europe. If we change the mindset of Europe to understand that force matters, and Russia taught us a lesson last year, that force does matter, army does matter, then we can be strong again, and we can be a player on the global level. If we don't do this, Europe will be not a player, but a sufferer of others' geopolitical decisions. So this is the question for Europe. And what is not known in Ukraine, that Hungary is doing its part. So the Hungarian military industry and the full military is a NATO military, not Russian or not post-Soviet. It's rearmed now by German cooperation and Turkish cooperation, what you have also in So the biggest partner of Hungary is actually Rheinmetall from Germany. So we are doing this, what we are talking, that we need strengths in Europe, we are doing it. We are not only talking about it.
Thank you. Thank you for your support. Thank you for the interview. I want to take one more interview in the future about other geopolitical things and also Ukraine. I think it's not last our meeting, and for me it's a great honor to communicate sincerely, and I feel that you speak sincerely. This is
I'm always.
yeah,
I'm
it's
always.
an ordinary Hungarian who knows.
I just
something
came back
about
a
geopolitics.
few weeks ago. I was in your
I
hometown
know.
or your adopted hometown in Uzhgorod.
I saw it, and thank you for your help.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.